What is this? Wow, into a lot. Wow, wow, wow. Well, as you guys can see, there's a new trend out. You spin around 30 times and jump on a sheet of paper. Now, how much time does somebody have on their hands to come up with this? It's crazy. All right. So as we can see, people can't do that. Let's see what this one is about. Wow. This has to be fun. This is what a short lady. Look, he said, come down. That's what a short lady feels like at 7 feet tall. There you go. Good job. And she's really short. That lady's like 4'10". Okay, let's do one more. What is this? I mean, he looks like a human chicken. All right, anyway. So guys, welcome to the Blacksmith Podcast Saturday episode. I didn't go to the gym this morning. I may sound a little off, but this should be my new normal, right? Because I haven't gone to the gym on a Saturday in a little bit. So my energy levels aren't really spiked, but I'm awake and I'm here and I'm live and I'm doing this for you. All right, so we start with a little fun, but let me start with a little story. So I saw one of the guys I know that I haven't seen in a while, and he said the same thing, like he hadn't seen me in a while, and I said, yeah, uh, just telling him about different stuff in my schedule, and I said, but I'll tell you what though. Since I've been riding that motorcycle, I if you guys weren't aware, I bought a 2024 KLR 650 adventure bike on MLK Day, so I'm a new motorcyclist, right? So this is what I'm talking about. But he knew this, so I said, hey, since I bought that motorcycle and I've been riding that, I will tell you something. I have literally cut commute time down almost to like where there's no traffic affecting it. I tell you something. So on the way to work, if you um do the Google Maps from where I live to where I work, it's 75 miles. It's an hour and 15 minutes, no traffic is what it says, right? Because it takes the surface streets, the highway speeds into account, all of that stuff, right? So an hour and 15 minutes in the morning, right? But on the way home, I have been since December of 2022 taking anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours to get home, unless I could time it right and get out of work early. And you know what? Neither here nor there. I bought the home to have enough space for the family, and it was a good price. And San Diego's expensive, so that's why you see here on my screen, 2.5 times 5, right? Can you do that easy math? So every two, you get 5 hours. So that'd be 5, 10, and then 12.5, right? So 12.5 hours worth of commute home per week. That's what I used to spend, right? And then in the morning, it was just 1.25 because it's an hour and 15 minutes. 15 is a quarter of 60, right? So this one, 1.5 times 5, well, that would be 5.25. All right. So that's commute to work. We'll just put a W there so I don't have to drop to the next line. So all in all, I was actually spending 17.75 on the road every single week. This is just commute, period. Right. Now, what my buddy Aaron said, and he's actually in Discord, he I told him that I really cut the commute time down to where it's an hour and 20 minutes, um, which is negligible almost when you think about if you already have an hour and 15 minutes at least to look forward to, an hour and 20, you only added 5 minutes onto your commute. So here in the great state of California, um, California Highway Patrol made the decision to allow motorcycles to be able to split lanes, right? And which means, there's a car in the left lane, there's a car in the middle lane, here's the right lane, but let's go with the left in the middle. A motorcycle can split in between these cars right here. It sounds like the most unsafe thing you ever heard of. If you live outside of California, if you've never been to California, if you live in a different country, you may understand. If you live in New York City, you may understand, or like a big city. But if you live outside of California, chances are you won't understand. I didn't get it either. I'm from New York. I'm from Long Island. We didn't do that kind of stuff. I thought it was illegal and I thought people just being crazy. No, it turns out it is a thing. So, how does this save me time? Well, if I do an hour and 20 minutes worth of commute home, I'm only adding 5 minutes onto the expected commute in the beginning. But what does that save me? So I told him the other day, I left work at 3:40, and at 4:36, I looked at the time, 4:36, I was like 2 miles from my neighborhood. And I was on the phone with my brother, and I was like, 50 minutes? Is my commute's going to be 50 minutes? Now, that day I was flying, but at the same time, that's less than what it would have been if there was traffic. Now, that gets a little into speed, so I'm not going to go there. But um, just understand that that motorcycle, without being reckless and doing things as safely as possible, saves me all kinds of time. And you know what? Without doing the math, he said to me, "Man, you bought your time back." And I thought, wow, what a revelation. I'm telling him, and I'm more on the math side of things, and he says, you bought your time back. So spending $4,800 on a motorcycle, bought it cash, um, spending, I don't know, between the gear I had to buy. So my helmet was like 300 and something. My jacket, pants, probably another 200 and something. I already had my boots. I just use boots that I would use for the Navy. I had a new pair sitting in the box for years. My gloves. Um, I had to pay for the permit test. I had to pay for the um, license registration, all of that. I think I paid just a little, like 20, 40 bucks or something like that. And the dealership did it for me, but 4,800 was the out the door price for the motorcycle. So, and then I spent $425 on a motorcycle course, a 1 day motorcycle course that would get you endorsed if you could pass the class. But the first thing was you had to pass the DMV's lollipop test, like they like to say. But all in all, let's just say I spent 55 less than $6,000 to buy back my time. So let's see if it's worth it. All right, so my commute used to be 17.75 hours. So this was the first one, right? And this is a good lesson, folks. So please pay attention. So now let's do, I can't even say, I'm going to do 1.25, but I'm going to do like an hour and 20 minutes because I actually have been getting here. Um, I actually have been getting here in about that time or less, actually, or less. Um, Again, that gets into speeds. I'm not going to deal with that, but here we go. So let's go. I can't find the keys I'm looking for. Times 5 days a week. And that will equal. Now, that's not exact math, but we're going to use it. So because we've already done this one before. So that one will be obviously 5. I did it wrong. It's 6.25. I'm just looking at this one right now and I'm like, that's not right. Because if you look at it, the 5 times 5 would be 5 times 1 right here would be 5. And so you have another 1.25. That obviously can't be 5.25. It has to be 6. And then if we go to our calculator and just do it, of course. There it is, 6.25. So I corrected my own mistake. Thank you. All right. And that's what it's all about. This is live and in person, folks. So, sometimes you're going to make a mistake. All right. So here we go. I did 1.25 because it's almost an hour and 15. So we're just not even going to get into the weeds on that. Now, on the way home, let's say that's on the way home. Now, on the way to work, let's just give the 1.25. It's going to be the same thing, but whatever. Let's go 1.20. I should say hours here. No. What am I trying to say? 1 hour and 20 minutes. That's what I mean to say. 1 hour and 20 minutes. Now, this sounds insane in the membrane to everybody who lives outside of San Diego, but listen, I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a San Diego thing, right? When I used to live in New York, people would live on Long Island. They would live 30 to 70 miles away, right? Anywhere in there. You could be 42, you could be 58, you could be 61, anywhere in there from Manhattan, and then they would go commute into Manhattan. They would live on Long Island and commute into Brooklyn, live on Long Island and commute into Queens, live on Long Island and commute to the Bronx, live in CT, Connecticut, the tri-state area, right? It's New York, Jersey, Connecticut, right? People always think it's Pennsylvania. It's not PA. It's not our tri-state area. But people would live anywhere in Philadelphia, Connecticut, Jersey, commute into New York or Long Island, which if you look at the kind of triangle flag waving punted football shape, Long Island's down here at the bottom right. Just look there. And people will commute into the city. So this is not a San Diego thing. I remember I lived in Jacksonville, Florida. People would commute from 30 minutes away or 30 miles away, however you want to slice it. We had one guy who would commute from like an hour away, and he had this little like Chevy Aveo because it was cheap on gas. He didn't have any problem because he got his house super cheap, and he was going to retire one day, and he was going to have a good place to live, and that mortgage would already be about halfway paid off by the time he retired. I thought it was genius. But what is your time worth, right? So now let's do this one. It's going to be the same thing. and we'll get right into the point of all of this, which is how valuable is your time. So I went from 17.75 hours to about 12 and a half hours. So that's what my commute is now per week. Again, it sounds insane. So what do you do with your 62, which is the shirt that I am wearing, right? My 62 might look a lot different than yours if you only commute 5 minutes back and forth. So 5 minutes there, 5 minutes home, you have a 10-minute commute. You have a lot more time to answer for than I do. Because I'm utilizing my time to travel. You're utilizing your time to what, right? So how valuable is your time? So he said you bought your time back, and his eyes were wide open, like, man, you bought your time back. Like he got the revelation that I never even I did it for that reason, but I just never said it like that. So, all right, moving on. So now let me bring up what I had pulled up. Oh shoot. I think it might have closed it because you're sharing two tabs. What do you mean you're sharing two tabs? Let's see. I had something pulled up. Maybe this is it. Hold on. Yeah, this is it. I just didn't recognize it. So now, look, pay attention. I asked, um, yeah, I guess so. So what you see on the left side of this left screen, this was a live I did a couple weeks ago, maybe over a month ago at this point. And what vidIQ did, which is the AI that I use for YouTube, is it if you feed it a video, it'll chop it into clips, and it'll give you the top 20 most promising clips. So if you see right here, this is scored a 98. This is, out of 100, obviously. So this clip right here is a fantastic clip to play. I'm not going to play it just yet, but let's focus on the right side of the left screen, right? What I asked Gemini was if time was publicly traded, how valuable would it be compared to the S&P 500? And that is what we're going to deal with today, at the start of today at least, right? How valuable is time really? And this is what it came up with. Now, I'm sure you can read, but Hooked on Phonics worked for me. If time were an asset class listed on an exchange, it would be the ultimate mega cap. So I don't know how many companies out there right now are considered the ultimate mega cap. I would dare say that Nvidia is probably close, maybe. But I don't know. So let's see. Based on the global economic data for 2026, it would not just compete with the S&P 500, but it would dwarf it by an order of magnitude. Dwarf. It would dwarf it. Y'all know what dwarves are? I'm not going to get into that. This might be some sensitive people out there, but they're smaller adults. Let's say that. To value time as a stock, we have to look at its revenue, global GDP, labor income, and its total assets, global life expectancy. So number one, the market cap, time versus the S&P 500. If we define the value of time as the total global labor income, the price people are paid for their hours, the scale, i.e., the price people are paid for their hours, the scale is immense. And it would be, right? We're talking time here. And time we know has no actual value attached to it because it's just an infinite sign, right? That 8 turns sideways. It's infinity. That's the value of time, right? So the S&P 500 market cap approximately 45 to 50 trillion dollars, which is nothing to sniff at. We're not talking hundred thousands, we're not talking millions, we're not talking billions, we're talking trillions. And I would dare say a lot of people probably don't know this, but a lot of the S&P 500, which I can ask, um, a lot of the investing in the S&P 500 are people's IRAs, whether it's their pension funds being tied up into it. It's retirement, I should say. Whether it's people's pension funds as teachers, cops, first responders, military, or 401ks, 403bs from teachers. I said teachers already, but just retirement funds and pensions and stuff. A lot of their money is tied up in the S&P 500 because they're getting about a 10% return on their money on average for retirement. And that's been pretty darn amazing. It's been tough to top the S&P 500 for all time. And I mean sustained growth. Good luck. All right. So, global time valuation. Economists often use the value of statistical life year or VSLY to price time. Now we know we can't do it, but we got to do something so that we can paint this make this Picasso a Manet or a Monet. Make it look more realistic, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Bars. Research from the Lancet Commission suggests a single healthy life year is roughly worth 2.3 to 3 times the GDP per capita. What is GDP? It's global domestic product. So that's what let's get into a definition really quickly. GDP. So gross domestic product. I think I said global. Gross domestic product measures the total monetary value of all final goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific time period. I looked this up because I would not have said it as eloquently. It would have been kind of beat up. Now, we're not going to get into the math of it all, but hey, you go right ahead and look at that right there. But that's what GDP is. So if you ever hear on a stock show, an investing show, them say, invest in the companies that move the GDP, that's what they're talking about. All right. All right. So a single healthy life year is worth 2.3 to 3 times the GDP per capita. All right. Excuse me. Whew. Like I said, I didn't go to the gym today. So that's been a constant thing on Saturdays for like maybe 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm a little tired, but we're going to do it. We're going to wake it up. All right. With the global GDP projected at roughly 110 trillion in 2026, the total yearly revenue of human time is worth over 250 trillion because they said 2.3 to 3 times. So they went with 2.3, I'm guessing, versus the 3.0. Because that would be different. That would be what? 330 trillion. All right. So, I mean, they did the slider here. So they should say 250 trillion to 330 trillion, but whatever. Let's use the lower number. It's still a heck of a lot of money. And you should be understanding how much time is worth. If you traded global human life expectancy as a full term asset, the sum of all future years remaining for the 8 billion people, the valuation would be in the quadrillions, making the S&P 500 look like a small cap company. In comparison, it would be, right? The only way you could say it's not a small cap company would be to compare it to something that is smaller. Because small is relative, right? In order for something to be small, something has to not be small, right? And so when you think about it, there we go. That's the screen I want to show in Discord. So if you think about it, in order for something to be large, something has to not be large, right? So those are words that are relative, right? So I get what they're saying. Yes, yes, yes. Why, hello to my brothers that are on here. One is at a doctor's appointment with his little man. So, um, and actually, he said he's coming over in a bit. So, all right. So the dividend. So that's number one. The market cap versus the S&P 500. Now I ask it versus the S&P 500 in general, but I could ask it a different question. This is just one of the ways to use AI to get yourself thinking on a different level. So number two would be the dividend, compounding wisdom. In this hypothetical market, time would be a high yield dividend stock, not Misty. But the dividend isn't cash, it's compounding. And then here's a quote from the late and great Charlie Munger. The big money is not in the buying or selling, but in the waiting. And you know what? Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett and him were great friends. Right now, I think Charlie Munger would be 101 or 102. And Warren Buffett turned 95 in August. So they're a few years apart. However, they were the greatest of friends. And they both used to quote each other, right? And I think that's a sign of respect. If you're gonna always quote somebody, then you must respect them enough. Because if you hated somebody, words they said would never come out of your mouth, right? You'd hate them too much to even give them thought in a day, right? So these guys obviously respected each other a lot. And he said the big money is not in buying or selling, but in the waiting. And what does that mean? So let's look at the market right now as it is, right? Let's look at the price of NVIDIA. Let's look at NVIDIA stock. All right, NVIDIA stock is at $177.39. Now, since January, it is down, right? It's down 11.5%. In 1 year, though, it's up 88. So let's use the year to date, right? So NVIDIA, you could say, is down 6%. And you know it's a solid company. You know it was the first $5 trillion market cap company. It's down to 4.31. That's still nothing to sneeze at, right? So you know this is a solid company and it's going to continue being a solid company. It has an ecosystem built around investing in NVIDIA. So we know that this is going to be a solid company for decades to come, for, at least, right? So he's saying the true value is not in buying it. There is value in buying it and selling it, right? Especially if you're up. Well, there's value in being up because there's equity. There's value in buying it lower than what its 52-week high is, which is right here, right? So if we do that math, this is down a lot more than 6% from its 52-week high, right? Because 10% would be 21 bucks, right? So it's down maybe at least 40 something. So it's down over 20% from its 52-week high. So I would say this is actually a very good buy right now. However, what he's saying is the most value you're going to get out of buying a share of NVIDIA is going to be waiting. And the man was 99, 98 when he passed away. So let's just say when he says waiting, he means 10 to 25 years, right? What would a share of NVIDIA be worth in 25 years? Now, let's say one share is worth $177 in 10 years. Do y'all think that's likely? Would the value still be the same? I think not. See, here's what I think. I think what happened last year, or I think it was 2024. It may have been last year, June 9th. I think it was my birthday when they split. They did a 10 for 1 split. I think it was 2024 though. Um, I think the value would have run up again to probably 1200 or so, and they probably split. And if it's back at 177, the value wouldn't be the same because if you owned one share, you now own 10. And so your equity would be a lot more, right? So, time. He's saying wait, obviously make good investments, obviously buy at the right time, but just wait. If you've once you've done that, now you wait. There's where your true value is going to come from. Thank you, Charlie Munger. Wisdom from the grave. As Munger and Buffett have frequently argued, time is the fuel for the S&P 500. The stock market is essentially a machine that converts human time and ingenuity into capital. Therefore, time is the parent company, and the S&P 500 is merely a subsidiary. I'm sorry, subsidiary. Um, so that's number two, the dividend. It will pay dividends to invest in time, or to invest your time into things worthwhile. But to invest in time in this illustration, you just have to wait. All right. Now, um, number three, shareholder risk the inflation of time. Just like a stock can be diluted, the value of time faces its own version of inflation. Lifestyle creep. And here is a big one, folks. Here's a big one. As we earn more, we often spend more time on maintenance, i.e., emails, subscriptions, errands, which Charlie Munger called the expense treadmill. I'm going to go further on this one. They said email, subscriptions, errands. No, lifestyle creep is much more simplistic than that. I was earning 80 grand, not me. At one point I was. But let's say somebody's earning $50,000 and they get a pay raise to $60,000 all at once, right? Um, what do you think the average person does? Let's say that so the year is 2026 right now as I'm recording this. This is April 4th, right? Let's say the guy just got his promotion Friday, and it came with a $10,000 salary increase. Now, he is driving a 2018 Honda Civic. What do you think he's going to do? I already pointed to the car. So now he trades that in and buys a BMW, a 3 Series, right? The 2018 was paid off. He had no car note. He had an insurance bill, but it was a low one because the Civic doesn't take much at 8 years old to cover if it was a total loss, right? Hence the insurance bill being low. Now he goes and gets a 2026 BMW 3 Series, right? Because he's got this promotion. And now he's paying $500 a month if he's lucky. Actually, and his insurance, let me see. Let's just we're already in Gemini. I can't say car note. Let's say car payment. I have to spell it right though. And car insurance. Now, I would never speak like this, but I'm gonna ask it like this. So this will help our illustration right here. Now, this is a great look at lifestyle creep. All right, so the average monthly cost typically ranges from 715 to 1210. Let's say he's crazy. Let's say he was stupid, but he's not crazy. So let's take the 715. And I was thinking 700 when I said 5, but I was going to go with a smaller number, but let's just be real about it. So now he's got a $715 car payment because he's just getting the basic 3 Series. All right. And then Okay, it says that up here, but then down here it says to finance 790. So let's take 790. Let's say he's getting this great interest rate, which we know he's not going to get. I should change this, but let's just go 800 flat. Yeah, and then let's go with okay. So that's lease scenario. So let's say 800 plus this 250 here would be 1050. That'd be 1050. So now he's got $1,000 car payment. This is the calculator. $800 plus 250, 1,050 bucks. All because he just wanted a no, go back. He wanted a Beamer. Now that's lifestyle creep. Okay, so that's what that is. You earn more, you spend more. That's just I'm just giving you a good illustration. I think it's good anyway. All right, volatility. Unlike the S&P 500, which has historically recovered from every crash, the time stock has a fixed expiration date. It has a melting ice cube, or it is a melting ice cube asset. You have the most shares when you are young, but they have a lower trading price, entry level wages as you age. Your share price goes up, experience seniority, but the total supply of shares drops down. Now, that is insightful right there. Did y'all hear that? Wow, I never thought about it like that. The amount of shares you have when you are young, you have the most amount of shares when you're young, but the value is close to the ground. The value is very low. And as you age, in order to grow taller, it's like they have to stack up, condense into like a cylinder shape to move that tower, that skyscraper up. So you have less shares, but they go sky high. Wow, that's crazy. I can make some content off of that alone because how many people, this right here, I'm going to save this. I'm going to make some content off of this because how many people are not their price is not going up because they're getting no more experienced in their seniority. I'm talking hard skills, soft skills. I'm talking value, right? How many people hit 40 and they're just existing after that? And it's sad. It's not a knock at anybody, but it's something to shock people away. I need to put the little charge pads on them and wake them up. All right. So, in summary, the S&P 500 would pale in comparison to time if it were traded as if it were publicly traded. The end. Hope you got something out of that. And we are going to take a short intermission because I left my water bottle somewhere. And at this, wow. Wow. I think he was killing him. Everybody's clap. Hold on. What? At this shelter, dogs chose their favorite human? They just ran to him? Oh, wow. They let the dog run out and it just chooses somebody? Oh, shoot. Oh, wow. Now that's awesome. Y'all ever seen something like this? Don't give me no copyright for this music. Hey, turn this off. Wow. A pit bull chose a tall guy with a bald head. Yeah, I'm not gonna go all the way downstairs. I'm pretty sure that's where my water is. Wow, another pit bull chose a lady with curly hair. Whoever would have thought? Yeah, I'll probably get a copyright strike. I don't want that. What is that? A basset hound? What? Show yourself. That's actually pretty cool. That wow. Oh no! Don't choose me, Beethoven. All right, there, Charlie Munger. Beethoven chose you. Oh wow, Dalmatian puppy. Look at him go. She held him too. She was like, "You ain't going to nobody else." Hey, Biscuit, chose him. Get him. This is actually cute. Is that a pug? Hey, he thought about it for a second too. He got him. Hey, see, this is good content. There's good content out there. Wow. He chose you. Okay, we kind of knew that he was going to choose her. She's already crying. Oh my God. Wow. All right, let's watch this one. Very cool. Oh, a husky? We got to see this. We might as well see the end. He's choosing you. That Pokemon chose you. She's like, no, no, you did it wrong. All right, let's look at what's trending and funny. Let's pick something. All right, cops. Let's see. Where's the volume? What is going on? Uh, what? What? What is going on? Oh, he looks like a chicken. We saw this one in the beginning. What is going on? What is with this chicken dance thing? Did he get him back? Is that the same guy? I don't know. See, this is how you stay young, man. You got to figure out what's trending and all of that because there's no way I you ain't got wow. I love how they get into it and then they I saw they said the rookie. She was really getting into it. All right, that's enough. That's enough. All right, shows back on. This is crazy. Some people's kids. All right, let's take this off of the screen. Let's so we're not interested in any more chicken dancing. All right, so let's move this one over a bit. There we go. Good to go. So now we see what time is like. And listen, that piece right there, that only came about because, like I said, I was talking to a buddy of mine, Aaron. I hadn't seen him in a while, and he told me that I bought my time back simply by buying that motorcycle and commuting to and from work in a faster time. And so I think we all need to understand just how valuable our time is. In fact, again, that is why I'm wearing what do you do with your 62? That's where that came from. Because your time is valuable. And if you just but understand that, you could achieve great things in life. Now, let's look at something else. All right. So I put this one into Gemini and I ask it, how does war usually affect an economy? So while war is sometimes mythologized as an economic stimulus due to increased industrial production, historical data from the last 150 years suggests that for most nations, it is a significant net economic burden. The impact generally falls into three phases: immediate disruption, financing driven inflation, and long term opportunity costs. So I will say, if you just look at America, World War One and Two, um, some significant things that happened, even with our economy, is that the draft was there, even for Vietnam. I guess we could take all the way up to about 74. I think Vietnam ran. I could be wrong about that, but it was almost mid 70s. Um, One significant change is that you had to have women to change their paradigm. It was a complete paradigm shift in America because if a lot of your men went off to war, what do the women and children do? What do the single women do? Because the eligible bachelors went off to war. And so they had to come out from what they would normally be doing and work like men were doing. So that was a big shift. And then when the guys came back from war, you had a good bit of them go back, but a good bit of them stay. So, and then that changed everything forever. And now we have, just as many women working as guys. It's how we're living right now in the 1800s would be a shock and awe to them if they saw it today. And the 1920s would be shock and awe if they saw it today. So even 100 years ago. But now it's just a Tuesday. Actually, it's Saturday. But um, so that's one thing it did in our own economy. So immediate impact, the price of war, according to researchers. We're going to skip to my loot through this. GDP contraction, 10%, season average and 10% drop. Though this can reach 30% over 5 years in a severe conflict, capital destruction beyond immediate spending, the capital stock, factories, roads, infrastructure is often decimated. For example, estimates for the current decade suggest that a major conflict can destroy nearly 1 trillion in capital stock for a single nation. And here's the other thing about that, right? If you're talking about just going to war, maybe not. But if you're talking about the war coming to you, bombs over, okay, I shouldn't say that. But if bombs are going off in your neighborhood, if your houses are getting firebombed and roads are getting torn up with tanks and missiles are hitting your buildings and stuff like that, then guess what? You have a complete destruction of your economy because those buildings were either being paid for and the company that so when the building gets destroyed, let's just take a skyscraper somewhere, right? Anywhere in the world, right? Let's use world B. Let's not even use Earth. Let's use Earth backwards. HTRAE. That's what this world is, right? So a skyscraper there gets hit with a missile. There's a company that owns it, right? And now the company, let's say the company's either leasing it or they own it, and it costs them, let's say, $20 million for the skyscraper. And a missile hit it, and insurance doesn't want to pay because it's a war kind of thing. And so they can't say act of God, but insurance doesn't pay for it, right? And they have a clause where they don't pay for it. Now that company's out 20 million. Where do they get their 20 million back? If they don't have 20 million in assets sitting there, if they don't have the market cap or the kind of liquidity in order to get enough money to rebuild that building, that company's just out that building and it doesn't get rebuilt. So now it stays as a, not only do they not get their 20 million back, um, they're out of an office building or whatever they made there, right? Um, and I hope it wasn't headquarters, and it probably was. And now the city it was in has crumbling infrastructure just sitting there. And if they do anything with it, it costs money. So watch this. To go rebuild it costs money. If it costs 20 million the first time, it may cost more this time because the price of concrete, water, steel bars, steel in general, workers, all of that goes up over time, right? Inflation. Number two, if they come to clean it up, they have to use some of that same equipment to build it to tear it down, right? And some of those same employees. So it costs money to tear down and get all the parts out of there and all of that kind of stuff. So regardless of, and to leave it there, well, something was there making money. So you're losing money. Let's say that building brought $500,000 to that city every every day. So you're losing money not rebuilding it. You know what I mean? So every 2 days is $1 million. So if you just take 365 and divide it into two, let's just go with 180 for easy math, and you have $500,000 uh, a day. That's 180 million, right? I could be wrong, and I probably am. That's 500,000 times. I said 180, but I said a day. So let's just do 365. Yeah, I went too low. So one, two. So it's 182, 182 million. Yeah, yeah. One point. No, 182, 182 point. Yeah, I don't know how they would do it. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. So that's what war is doing, right? To That's what it will do. You will have actual destruction of things. Like if they destroyed a road, that city is paying for that road. If the city doesn't have the money to pay for that road, now it's pothole city, right? Um, and so now your car maintenance costs go up because they have to still travel and navigate the road. People out of the kindness of their heart have to come and rebuild the city. It's their city. They have to come out there and fill those potholes because the city doesn't have the money to fix it. Um, so that's something it also does. And supply shocks, global trade linkages mean that even third party countries feel the effects. Non belligerent neighbors often see their own output fall by 10% due to disrupted trade routes and border instability. So, what they're saying here is that anyone, it's not just the people involved in a conflict that are affected, not affected, affected. Um, it's the neighboring countries because you often do trade with your neighbors, right? One village trades with their neighboring village, right? Um, so the neighboring country or countries, and anybody third party they ship to or receive items from, they're saying they will see a fall or decline in their GDP as well. Because if your country's at war and you're spending more of your money on tanks and planes and missiles and explosive, um, you will have less money to trade with people. So they may bring a ship to your coast and you might be like, look, we can't buy it this month. And they be like, what do you mean? Like, we sailed it all the way over here. We got another one on the way. Um, can't buy it. They may have to sit there a while until you can. And so it affects everybody. All right, so monetary impact, inflation, and debt. We already know we can actually skip this one, but high taxes can minimize inflation, but often discourage civilian economic activity. Uh, it's not going to talk about it. So you could look at gasoline, right? Gasoline before this conflict was in the fours. I paid 571 on Friday. And that was a gas station on base, which is cheaper than the surrounding area. So just imagine that. Thank God I'm only putting my little 3.5 or three gallons in that motorcycle's tank. That's 6.1 gallons, you know. So, but still. All right. Borrowing. This is the most common method used extensively in the Afghanistan and Iraqi wars. While it avoids immediate tax hikes, it leads to massive debt that can take decades to repay. Yeah, I do not like debt. I don't like this borrowing one. I don't like borrowing jack or Jill. Printing money. When government, and see, here we go. This is under inflation, right? Monetary impact, inflation, and debt. I'll read it first. Printing money. When governments print money to fund its deficits, it almost always triggers hyperinflation. Historically, this caused price hikes to rise by nearly 50% during major interstate conflict. So listen, all right. People often don't understand this, but with inflation, you do have natural inflation. So the price of goods going up all over time. That's gas, eggs, bread, milk, all that kind of stuff. It goes up over time, right? The cost of it goes up, just like the stock market, right? If inflation is a thing, the stock market is a thing. It just makes sense, right? But there's also forced inflation. And that's what printing money is. You are forcing your dollar to deflate, the value of it to deflate. So watch this. Let's say I wish I had my water bottle, but I don't have. You know what a Kool-Aid pitcher looks like, right? If you don't know what a Kool-Aid pitcher looks like, just take a pitcher. Some people drink beer. Take a pitcher that would have beer in it. Whatever size, whatever shape you normally think of that, right? And now fill it to the brim to where you can stir it, right? Without it spilling over. Fill it to the brim with water. Now we're going to mix in cherry flavor Kool-Aid. We're going to make Kool-Aid for this illustration. You tea drinkers like myself, you take tea and I don't want to go through the brewing process. Just mix in cherry flavored Kool-Aid, right? And now let's mix in the sugar. Mix in a good amount. We don't want to become diabetics after we drink this, but we do want it to be sweet. All right, you got the idea. You stir it all up. Now you take a glass, right? It's already cold. Let's say the water's already almost slush, right? Cold, right? So it's cold. You drink it. It has the right amount of sweetness and the right amount of cherry. It's perfecto, right? Now, what I want you to do is take that same pitcher and we're going to go to a new build house, right? A new build. Because I don't want this to be nasty sounding. Go to a new build house. They just brought you in a porcelain tub that's never been utilized. It has been disinfected, clean. There are no germs in it. You're going to put in the stopper, which has also been disinfected, no germs. It has been tested, 0 germs. You're going to dump that same pitcher of Kool-Aid with the 1 cup missing that you took to drink and take and sample. You're going to dump that into that bathtub. Now you're going to turn that water on and you're going to fill the tub with nothing but water. You're going to take some kind of cauldron mixing device and you're going to stir that up. And you're going to take a sip of that, which is why I said the tub was clean, right? Everything's clean in this illustration. and you're going to take a sip. Now tell me, you probably had a gallon of fluid before. How many more gallons do you have now? I don't know. What's the average bathtub size? Man, I can spell. Hold on. All right. This is a simple one. This isn't like a real big thing. All right, come on. 40 to 70 gallons. All right. How about this? We just take 50. So 50. So now we have 51 gallons of fluid. 1 gallon is water with cherry powder with sugar. So 1 gallon, 1 part is Kool-Aid and 50 parts water. When you take a swig of that bathtub brew, will you even taste cherry? Will you even taste sugar? The answer is no, because it has been watered down. The cherry Kool-Aid has been watered down, or you could say the potency of its flavor has been deflated. And that is what happens to your dollars. So let's say, for all intents and purposes, there's $1 million in circulation right now. And over the course of the next year, they're going to print 10 more million or $9 million, right? Now, your dollar that you had, let's say that first $1 million is only worth 1/10 of what it was before. See that? So if you had $1 of the 1 million, it was 1/1,000,000th of the 1 million. And now it's not even that, because there's $9 more million in circulation. So I know that sounds crazy, but that's forced inflation, folks. And that's what's happening out here, right? All right, let's go back up here. I don't know where I was before, but you guys can see what's happening, right? Here it is. So long-term iceberg costs, the visible cost of missiles and tanks is only the tip of the iceberg. Human capital, because there's going to be a loss of life, there's going to be life insurance paid out, there's going to be gaps in the jobs you took them from in society, that they're plumbers, electricians, mechanics, stuff like that. The jobs you took them from in the economy and put them in war, if they never come home, or if they come home too injured to do these, now you have a gap in your economy, and now you need to raise up another generation of plumbers, electricians, and whatever else I said, right? You'll have a gap, mechanics. So let's read what they said, though. The loss of labor and the loss of long-term costs of veterans, disability, and medical care. For current conflicts, these lifetime obligations can add hundreds of billions of dollars to a nation's national debt. That is correct, because if they come home as an amputee, if they come home with PTSD, if they come home injured in any way, now when they get out of the military, chances are they probably won't do 20 years if they come home injured or just from war. Typically, people don't stay and do 20 years. They're like, hey, I'm not doing that again. So they get out of the military, and then they get enrolled into the VA, and they get rated with the VA for all their disabilities or whatever's wrong with them. And so now they start earning money in perpetuity that they only have to keep breathing for. And I say breathing because, let's say something happens later on in a motorcycle accident, or something happened, they're in a car crash and in a vegetative state, and someone says, I want to leave them on life support. Are they really alive at that point? Are they really living at that point? But as long as a death certificate doesn't come in for them, they will earn that VA money on the 1st and the 15th in perpetuity. You see what I'm saying? He knows. He ain't lying. See, he ain't hooked my soundboard up with the he ain't lying.
What did he say?
Yeah, I hit the wrong one.
Happens to be wrong.
Happens to be wrong. So you will earn that in perpetuity, even if you're on life support. So understand that, right? You could be in a coma, you could be in a vegetative state, and it will not matter. You'll earn it in perpetuity. So yes, they are right about hundreds of billions of dollars in the nation's national debt. All right, opportunity costs. Every dollar spent on military contracts is a dollar not spent on education, healthcare, or infrastructure, or free college, like a lot of other countries, right? Now, we could say because we live in a capitalistic society that college shouldn't be free because it's more of a competitive society. Everybody's going to have their take on it. I just threw that one in there because education in America is free, sort of. It's free for you to go to public education. But remember, if you own a home in that county, your dollars go to pay for the schools, right? So is it really free? No, they just found a way to subsidize it. When my dad's dad, my grandpa, granddaddy John is what we called him, but Johnny C. Bryant, he got pulled out of school in the second grade because they actually had to pay like tuition for him to go. Now he was born in 1931 and he lived in Donaldsonville, Georgia, and he got pulled out of school in the second grade because he had to help on the farm and it wasn't free. If it was free, they might have been able to leave him there. So, as a grown man, he didn't know how to write his name. He didn't know how to read. He actually learned to read through reading the Bible. He learned to write. He taught himself. People helped him. Um, but he spent many hours and much of his time trying to. Now he was a janitor. He had his own landscaping business and he had his own construction business, right? So it doesn't mean he couldn't be successful. He was. He was a janitor for 30 years in Farmerdale School District, which means he got a pension as well. So think about that. He was still successful, but education's in there, healthcare's in there. A lot of major countries have free healthcare for their citizens. Is it actually free? No, they just find a way to subsidize it. So it's free, right? Infrastructure. So I threw the other one in there too. So research shows that spending on education or healthcare significantly or creates significantly more jobs per dollar than military spending. And while that might be true, I'm okay with spending on the military if you are in a crisis, if you are in a war. I think it makes sense. If a war is financed by debt, the interest alone can eventually rival the original cost of the conflict itself. Yeah, that's true. And so that is how conflicts or wars typically affect an economy. Because I think that was the question. Um, and I would say we'll take a look at. I said here, I ask it, how has this war affected the Mag 7? Um, it moved to a bull market, basically, is what it's saying. So it went down. Um, no, bull market is up, bear is down. Hold on. I shouldn't have summarized that because I read it wrong. The Mag 7 have faced a turbulent start in 2026 while they previously moved in a cohesive previously in a bull market. Because I was like, that doesn't make any sense. They've all gone down. And we talked about it last week. Okay, so previously they were in a bull market. The Iran war has fragmented their performance, introducing both physical security threats and economic headwinds. Yeah, so bear market. Um, Now I don't know if we are necessarily in a bear market right now. I just know the stock prices have gone down. The market cap have gone down, right? But I don't know if it's a bear market right now. So don't quote me on that. I'm just saying it's not bull anymore. Direct security threats in a significant escalation. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, explicitly named the MAG 7 as legitimate military targets in late March of 2026. This I did not know. And you know what that'll do? That might actually scare people into not investing in those companies and selling their positions now before they actually get targeted, and then they lose equity, right? So if they're like, man, I'm up $70 on each of the shares of Nvidia that I own, and I own 1,000, I'm gonna sell them now. I'm gonna take my equity, my ball, i.e., and go home, right? Um, Before, so let's say, because what they're thinking is like,
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
this guy right here. You're gonna take your ball and go home. So if somebody's up $70 in equity on each share of their Nvidia shares and they have 1,000, they might sell them now versus letting them get targeted and dropping their equity down to like $20 per share after the conflict is over or during the conflict. So they may think about losing money and they just may say, nah, I'm good, and cash out. And that's what happens a lot of times, right? So the IRGC allegedly, these firms, and ICT tools were used by the US and Israel. All right, so they're making them a target. We're just going to skip that. Middle East operations, companies like Microsoft, Google, Nvidia have been warned to evacuate employees from regional offices. Infrastructure risk, Iranian strikes on the AWS data centers in early March caused localized service outages in the UAE. Making the cloud vulnerable. Okay. All right, so individual company performance. So they talk about Nvidia down about 1% over the last 6 months. And you can see they're talking about minerals like helium and bromine needed for semiconductor manufacturing, semiconductors. I've heard about helium in the last week. Even Earn Your Leisure talked about helium. I'm not going to go invest in helium, but this company right here that utilizes helium, I'll keep investing in them, especially while the price is down. Tesla has a mixed outlook. Tesla, to me, and I said this maybe starting 3 years ago, but Tesla was like the most crypto acting publicly traded asset on the stock side there was. And I think it's because of the volatility. Like Tesla would go up $12 one day, drop $20 the next day, go up 32 the next day. I'm like, man, what is going on? But if you are in trading, that might be a significant way to earn, which I did a couple times, and then I lost a couple times, and then I shut down the trading factory. And it was Tesla. It was Tesla that did it. 2023, I believe. All right, so Tesla's mix. Now let's see, Meta. Among the hardest hit, Meta stock plunged more than 20% in the last 6 months, leading up to April of 2026, as investors question the return of its massive AI capital expenditures amid global instability. I think Meta's still a good company to invest into. Is it right now? I can't say right now. If we want to deal with where to invest and stuff like that, we have Why Invest on here, and we can jump into that maybe next week or so and look at, or in the next couple weeks, if he is available to look at. And remember, we are not licensed over here, but these are our professional opinions. All right. All right. Macroeconomic headwinds. The war has created two major pressures that disproportionately affect high growth tech. So, the death of rate cuts. Before the war, markets expected the Federal Reserve to cut interest rates. I know they expected the Fed. I think we had 3 rate cuts last year. Okay, now because of war driven oil inflation, traders see a slim chance of any cuts this year. I think they just asked the Fed. The Fed came out and left rates the same. I think that just happened within the last 2 or 3 weeks. High interest rates make the future earnings of tech giants less valuable today. That is correct. Supply chain seizure analysts warn that if the Strait of Hormuz blockade persists, the massive backlog of AI server components could cause the entire tech production cycle to seize up, making it impossible for these companies to meet their ambitious 2026 delivery targets. Also true, the Strait of Hormuz was big before most people even knew it existed, before this Iran conflict. It highlights, war does have some silver lining, I guess if you could call it that. It kind of gets people educated about different areas of the world they otherwise would not be educated in. Granted, I'm not saying that the war is a good thing. I'm just saying there can be some good if you look at the bright side. Most people, I've heard more Strait of Hormuz, and people don't even know really how to pronounce it. But I've heard that more in the last 2 months or last month, really, than I have in my entire naval career or life, actually, because I only learned about it through the Navy. When I was going to deploy, I heard about that was going to be the most, that was going to be the antithesis of the deployment, is going through there and having to deal with facing down Iran and if they would attack us or not. So I won't give any more details than that. I'm just telling you that I'm not even saying when this was. I'm just telling you that that was the case. But um, anyway, anywho, I think, folks, that's going to do it for this episode. That basically, I was just showing how the Iran war has, or conflict. I can't call it a war, allegedly, right? The conflict has affected the economy. I did do how it affected the stock market. I think that was the first question I asked it. Oh, the oil industry. And we went over this last week, but I just wanted to see if it was saying about the same thing. We did the oil industry in the stock market last week. So then I asked it the Mag 7 specifically. How does it usually affect an economy? And if time. So time, like I said, that only came because a buddy of mine said to me that by purchasing that motorcycle, I bought my time back. And so I thought, well, let me ask it this question. If it was publicly traded, if time was a publicly traded commodity, how valuable would it be compared to the S&P 500? So if you missed that part of the show, I'm going to edit and have this uploaded within the hour. One of my brothers will be here by then. So I am going to work on that before he gets here, hopefully. And then I'll have it uploaded. But I think it was a very good conversation to have, and maybe you can look in your life and identify areas where maybe you can buy some of your time back. And if you see what I'm using here, ask Gemini. What is Gemini? It's an AI, right? AI can do automated processes for you that you would have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis, quarterly, right? It can automate processes for you if you pay for the paid version, I believe. I don't know if the free one can do it, and then it gets kind of sketchy about who owns it, any of the IP if you don't pay for the AI or whatever. So I'm saying the paid version just to be safe, but it can automate processes for you, and in that way, you can buy your time back. Let's say you were like me, you had an Amazon store and you need to source products that you wanted to buy with at least a 15% margin, right? Every day. You could source for sales and all of that kind of stuff. Sales, coupons for things that will get you into that 15%. You could have it scour the internet for you every single day for things like that, rather than taking 2 to 6 hours to do it yourself. Believe me, when I started out, it was rough with a capital RUFF. Doing that kind of stuff, I spent real time on doing this, and AI could help you buy your time back. So I think this week, here's my challenge to you. Challenge of the week. I want you to look at your life and see what in your life you can automate, or you can purchase something in some kind of fashion. Purchase, I use that word loosely, um, and buy your time back. And I want to know. So here's how you do this, right? So with myself, let me bring the whiteboard back up. If you weren't here in the beginning, or just to refresh, even if you were. So if you look right here on the left side of the screen, um, I was spending 17.75 hours commuting to and from work every single week. I went to work Monday through Friday. And so on my way to work, I would spend an hour and 15 minutes getting there because I would have no traffic. But on the way home, I was spending 2.5 hours max. Mm, yeah, on rare occasion, it would go over that. So I just took the max. So it'd be 2 to 2.5 hours, right? So I was spending that amount of time, so 12.5 hours getting home Monday through Friday. So if you add that 12 and a half to the 16.25 or the 6.25, I was spending 17, almost 18 hours commuting every single week. Now I spend about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes each way. So I only do about 12 and a half hours. I'm going to try and clock it this week so I can make this. This one won't change, but this one might change. I'm going to try and needle and thread this one, really get it down to a science. I'm going to try and clock my times. Um, and I'm going to have to take gas into account and stop the timer when I'm over there at the gas station if I can remember. I'll try and do that just for research purposes, because by the time I would get to the gas station, I'd be at the gym anyway. And I wouldn't count that as part of the commute at that point. But either way, this one might change, that one won't. But I bought back in this illustration almost 5.5 hours every single week. So it'd be 5.25, right? So let's see. Let's go 5.25 times 52 weeks. That's 273 hours bought back. Now, that may not sound like much. If you divide that by 24 hours, that's almost 11 and a half days right there, folks. Bought back. What do you do with your 62? Live them, not drive. Not drive. I'll tell you that. Not drive. So it's kind of insane if you really think about how much time somebody with a long commute just trying to make ends meet will spend on the road. They spend an exorbitant amount of time on the road. And so then people with these short commutes, when they're not accomplishing goals and stuff, a lot of times we look at them like, what the heck is wrong with you guys? You're home by 3. You're home by 2:30. You're home by 4. I'm not home until 5, 6, 7 at night. And I still accomplish all of this, but maybe they're more driven because they do that. Because their time, because it's not because time got any more precious for them than for them. It's that they recognized how precious time was, because there was an exorbitant amount of it being spent on something and they could not do anything to shrink it. Versus these guys, they have all the time in the world in a day. And so they don't realize how valuable that time is. But hey, folks, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I will see you back here on. Some people are in stark opposition of AI, and I feel bad for them. People our ages and younger. Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. but they will soon find out that they will either jump on that train or they're going to be left behind. But here's the thing, they're going to be left behind chasing it later. So you better start using it. I know my wife is utilizing it a lot now. So if she can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. Um, I work with a guy who's in his 50s. I'm not yet in my 40s, and he's in his 50s. He did, I think, 22 years in the Marine Corps as a fighter pilot. He was F-18s, and he uses it. He uses it every day. Before he sends out a message to the command or an email or stuff, he puts it in there and he looks at it and gins it up, and he does all kinds of stuff with it. So if he can do it and still be changing in his 50s, an 18-year-old has no excuse. A 20-year-old has no excuse. A 30-year-old has no excuse. That guy has a generation on you, right? Get with the program, right? And that guy is still young because he has not given up and said, I'm not going to change, right? Anyway, guys, the Forge is going cold. I love you. I thank you for being here, and I will see you next week. I am signing off. The Blacksmith is out.